Alright, so I'm a little tired today since got done with work, and I tried recording this twice. It didn't work out as I had planned originally. So I actually sat down, wrote everything out, and bookmarked everything where I need to, because this is something that's been on my heart for quite some time. Um, and to be honest, this is never really addressed. This is rather important in today's culture that is increasingly going down the road of sex, as well as constantly chasing after your wants and needs, your wants more so than your needs. And some of the people that I talk to, the problem there lies in being irresponsible to the point where something happens and basically there's no way to fix what has been happened, and things, it's too late. So that's kind of a problem there that it is happening with a lot of people in today's world. um this is not a Bible study. I want to repeat, this is not a Bible study. I'm using a Bible here to simply pull out verses and to try to explain how the topic fits in with today's culture and society and the narrative of the lesson here, which is lust, desire, and sex. Um, I've spent years talking to people and looking through different things. Some of it's relevant, some of it's not relevant. Um, but foundations and guidelines, and as I'm learning a little bit about it, a little bit of philosophy here with governing your mind and having, I don't want to say rules, but having a certain way of thinking and a certain way of looking at things really can help prepare you for when things change or when things get worse. So with that in mind, I'm using the Bible, and I want to say this is a New Life Bible, in case that matters. It's not something I normally use. I would normally use something from my phone and write it all out, but I didn't do that this time. So the first topic, and this is going to be a three-part topic here. It's going to be on lust, and there's really no good place to start outside of looking at what happens at the very end, when lives get ruined, relationships get destroyed, and you ask yourself where everything went wrong. That the end describes the topic very nicely. How this matters, though, and let me put this in context as I've talked to other people. Um, Between lust and desire, one is dealing with like a unhealthy type of a feast where you're just sitting down and gorging yourself, and you're not stopping. You just keep going and going and going. While the other is basically having a meal, and there is control in one, and a complete fulfillment of the self and lack of control in the other. You're going above and beyond fulfilling yourself. You are basically gorging yourself. You're not stopping. The key word is basically loss of control and not stopping. Excuse me, key words. Um, so with that, I will start here because I wrote down some stuff here and I marked some places. I'm going to go in pretty much in order. Can't quite do some of the stuff when I'm driving, unfortunately, like I normally can. This is simply more than just simply putting my thoughts out. I can't do it this time. I have to actually pull this out here. Alright. First Thessalonians, this is where it's found. It's a two-part. 1 Thessalonians 4:4 and 4:5. I will actually start on number 3. It is God's will that you should be sanctified, that you should avoid sexual immorality, that each of you should learn to control your body in a way that is holy and honorable, This is number 5. Not in passionate lust like the pagans who do not know God. The idea there is that there should be control, and lust completely oversteps that boundary on several different accords. Lust is, in a very real sense, not healthy, because you're constantly pursuing and you're constantly letting your desires dictate your words and actions. And this ties in with the previous topic that I was talking about, is who's in control, you or your desires. And lust itself is a step beyond that. Alright, moving on. The foundation here is important, and tying this to real life is using real life examples and what I see, as well as other things that are relevant to this. In a very real setting, I do deal with other people at work that explain this every single time that I'm there. However, the most prominent example is when condoms are passed around, and there's nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I should do about it, because I am working for a private company, and it is not my place, it is not my responsibility to interfere at all. However, since I have to deal with the well-being of the students that live there, safety is paramount. And this is a very good tie-in right here, because when people want to pursue their own desires to a point where they're doing nothing but trying to satisfy that, up until, like, say what happened this morning where the police were called, where assault is made. I don't know why, but when assault's made, and in some cases where there's relationships fracturing and breaking apart, and people, like this one incident back in like January or whatever, there's a peeping Tom who's caught in the females' restrooms. The police were called there as well. When your lust takes you to the point where you are going above and beyond chasing it and spending money, spending time, and you're losing a part of yourself in the process, that is a huge problem. That needs to be addressed, that needs to be fixed, because you are going down a slope that you're not going to be able to return from. Anyway, moving on. 2 Timothy 2:22. Flee the evil desires of youth and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, along with those who call on the Lord out of a pure heart. Interesting. This ties in. This is number 23. Don't have anything to do with foolish and stupid arguments, because you know they produce quarrels. That's more political right there. But basically here is, the Bible is identifying lust as being a desire that is culminated from the youth of a person. And it's tied directly in with the person itself. The Bible laying down foundations and telling others what to pursue is both good, but at the same time very hard to take. And the less adults are involved in other people's lives, the harder it is to take, because being told what to do, there's no trust there. There's no trust. There's no, like, I believe you have my well-being at your heart. I will listen to you, and I'll do what you say. There's no sense of respect. There's none of that. It's basically, you're trying to stop me from doing what I want to do, so screw you. People have that attitude all the time, but the lack of a proper upbringing means the lack of control, the lack of tools in order to deal with lust specifically. And lust, to clarify, is more on the sexual side of things. This ties in with desire, but in a very different way, which I'll be hitting up next. That'll be part 2. So, flee evil desires, and pursuing righteousness, faith, and love, and peace. So, telling others what to avoid as well as what to pursue. Um, there's a very clear lack of being, for people in today's world to be told of what to pursue, but there's plenty of what to watch out for, what to avoid, and having standards, having morals, having boundaries is more than just simply don't do this, don't do that, this is wrong, this is bad, this will hurt you. Being told what is good, what is healthy, and then putting down a standard is something that helps keep things from going out of control and beyond being fixed. Yeah. And there's definitely there's some stories of where people were saying they wish they'd been corrected so they could have fixed some of the problems and issues in their life before it got too late. There's stories like that, but you don't hear them on the news because it doesn't generate the revenue, doesn't generate the money or the attention that bad news does. There's no news like bad news, Moving on. Even though I bookmarked it, sometimes it takes a second to get to the right page. Alright, James 1:14 and 15. Okay, starting with 13, since that's where it actually starts. 14 is cut in the middle. When tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me, for God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. This is 14. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed, which, again, is lust, not desire. 15. Then after desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it's full grown, gives birth to death. Now, what this is talking about is more than just simply desire. This is talking about actually pursuing things to the point where lust takes hold, and you cannot, you have to follow this. You have to take these actions. You got to sign up to the website. You got to go buy the porn. I don't actually want to use the last one as an example, but for those who are very traditional, it does fit very well with porn being evil, and there's nothing that'll change their mind. So in that case, it's a very good example of what is evil. I'm not going to really talk about God as far as that goes, because when you're trying to interpretate between the two, this isn't really about describing, this isn't really about talking about, because it should already be known. And again, as I said, this is not a Bible study. This is me speaking out on parts that intersect between this world and the biblical world, which is important, because there's a distinct lack of it in today's world, and that is a huge problem because of self-entitlement, a lot of pride, a lack of control, a lack of fathers and discipline. There's a very lack of a lot of that is good and healthy that used to be here. Honestly, a lot of it's dying off, and a lot of the good fathers, a lot of the people who care, they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and many of them have health problems and health issues, and they're concerned about their families. They're taking a step back. Focusing on their life and their families. And to that end, the instruction is not there. The interpretations are very limited, and there's a lot of fingers being pointed as far as, don't do this, that's wrong, this is evil. And then there's other people who go out there who squash the truth, and they try to hide it and shush it because they use phrases like "I'm offended," where, the truth cannot overcome my feelings. My feelings are more important than what has been in society for years. This isn't just a few amount of years, this is several hundred years. I want to say starting with the Catholic Church, but I'm probably wrong on that. The Catholic Church goes way back, but honestly, when it comes down to standards and guidelines being implemented and put into public, I'm not really sure where that started. Alright, moving on from James. Or, actually, moving back to Job, because I want to hit that up before I forget. Job 31:1. I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman. The idea that is presented here in this verse is that there is a clear distinction between appreciation and desiring, coveting, I shouldn't say desiring, but coveting and wanting and actually pursuing on a visual level. You're not just simply taking it and being like, yeah, you know, that's real nice, I appreciate that. You're just like, I want that. And so, as it is, the idea is putting boundaries so that you don't cross them. You don't basically, you're not trading your standards for something that's only going to last a few minutes, and then you're going to feel like crap afterwards, because, you know, you're less of a person. You broke your word. You know, there's a bit of a self-respect there too, where like you cross these lines, you're just a little bit more of a trash person than you were 5 seconds ago. That does play into it a little bit. Some people do beat themselves up pretty badly whenever they do make mistakes, and yeah. All right. Don't think I hit up Matthew, so Matthew 5:28. Let me double check this. I'll start with number 27 as well, because this is start. 28's in the middle. You have heard it that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. The next few verses talking about, you know, if body parts cause you to stumble, you gouge them out, throw them away. The idea there is simply taking or removing, that other part is taking or removing what is causing problems and putting it aside. Sometimes permanently and other times just temporarily. Because anything that causes you or others to stumble in that one area will cause you to stumble in other areas. It's not just simply you're weak in this one area, or it's going to cause a little bit of problems. It's going to cause a ripple in quite a few areas of your life, not just that one. But you won't see it immediately. You won't see it until much later. But as far as the actual verse here, committing adultery here, there's a context as far as many of the people back in the time. This is what Jesus was saying according to the Bible here, Jesus' words here. Many of his followers and people who listened to him were married. I don't know as far as the age groups and all that, you know, like young adults, young married couples. I'm not sure about that. But many of them were couples. And even for those who were not couples, marriage happened at such a young age where it would have happened very soon. So there were a lot more couples there than single people. That was the crowd that it was addressed to. So if you want to replace that with like fornication is not in the Bible, but it's not talked about for reason because there's no relationship being violated. The Bible is very clear on several different things: sexual immorality and not violating the marriage bed. And in some contexts, it's talking about the parents' bed, because back in Jesus' time, many households lived in one house, and it took some time to go build another house for the new family to move into, the new couple. So, in some cases, people had sex in their parents' bed. Yeah. There's more to it than that, though. Moving on. This is 1 Thessalonians, which I already hit. 1 John 2:16. Okay. I'll start with 15 again because it's cutting in the middle. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. This is 16. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and pride of life, comes not from the Father but from the world. The world and its desires, this is 17. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever. So the idea implemented here that is kind of missing in today's world here is a clear definition of what love, what passion, and of what lust is. It's not necessarily talking about what is physical either, because there's a lot of talk that what is physical is strictly evil. You know, what is maternal, and material is what is wrong and evil. There is a point to be made as far as what is natural, what is following its design, and that in itself is something that is good. Let's see. Loving the world and putting that love first in your life. First. That's like putting people on pedestals. Because in a very real sense, that is, people are a part of the world. In a very real sense, when you put someone on a pedestal in your life, your whole life is being derailed. And you're not even seeing it. Some people equate that to putting on the love goggles, and you're blinded by love. Very good terminology right there. Very good words to use. Now, when it talks about, anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. The idea is that there's no love for a creator, for someone who's actually out there, who, according to the Christian God here, that God loved you so much that he sent his son to die for you. And we've all heard that numerous amounts of times, but the idea there is that you're putting something between you and a potential relationship with the Creator. And it's something to keep you to think about it, because, honestly, you're going to have to come up with your own life on what actually matters, what has value in your life that you will focus on and pursue. And this could be the opposite sex. This could be your job. Could be finances. This could be, in some cases, pursuing the pleasures that you want. But if anything becomes number one, that number one, whatever is in that number one spot, is going to blot out much else, including what the Bible is talking about with God and spiritual matters that matter. Take that with a grain of salt. Not everyone is going to see spiritual matters the same way, and some people will argue the fact that there is no God. Your values partially determine what you see, because that's a whole different discussion. I'll just leave it right there. The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, basically the pursuing, your unhealthy pursuit of what you are seeing, what you are eating, junk food, for example. People going out there and buying soda every single day, getting ice cream, going out eating at restaurants, excuse me, not restrooms. So basically, people just packing in the calories, and they are completely gorging and stuffing themselves, and the next thing you know, you got health issues. There's a lot of people with that, and they're just not taking care of themselves. They are pursuing their lust to a point where it is killing them. So lust will kill you in time. And that is the difference between lust and desire. Lust will kill you within time. If there's enough time, it will kill you. Desire, on the other hand, is talking about pursuing passions and things that are of interest. Now, the Bible is very interesting in the sense where it does a split view between, and I'll touch on that in the next video, but it's split between what is physical and what is spiritual. And if you're more interested on this, you should look up the topic of dualism. There's a lot there that helps you to understand more of how people are as well as what they see. Dualism is a very good topic, but it doesn't really address spirituality. It doesn't really address what is materialistic and spirituality is what the Bible does. So there's some very interesting points there to be made that are worth looking into. Anyway, this was 10 minutes longer than what I originally intended, so apologies there. I'll do part 2. It's all right here, but I'm going to break it up in segments so I can actually have things outlined and put notes down that I can quickly flip to. Alright.